Hey, what's going on? It's Green Thumb. Welcome to the greenhouse. We're starting seeds. You betcha we are. So right now the camera and the tripod is currently sitting in a box of soil, right? Because just kind of setting up the stage here. We are going to be growing in. We're starting a lot of things in a 50 cell tray. Okay? Tray. Tray. These are the ones that I washed the other day. You guys saw me wash these trays out. So what we're going to do is we're going to load them up with soil. I'm using ProMix Moisture Mix. It's already got fertilizer mixed into it, along with mycorrhizal spores. And what I do is when I'm pouring it out of the bag into the container, because I like to be able to have a larger working space, I go through it with my hands and I pick out crap like that. Okay? It didn't get broken down in whatever process they use to manufacture the soil. And you also want to make the soil as light and fluffy as you can get it. No clumps. Not for little seedlings. Okay? You don't want them to have to fight their way through any clumps. So that's another reason I just kind of, it's sitting in a tote right here. And as I pour it out of the bag, I pour a little out. I break it up with my hands, pour some more, break it up with my hands, pick out the junk, whatever. And so what's in here now is the soil that I'm going to start all these in. Okay, tomatoes, zucchini, cucumbers, and peppers. And what else do I have upstairs? Something else. I'm forgetting something else. I'm not going to start those in little seedling trays. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start those in solo cups. That way things like the zucchini and the cucumber, they can grow a bigger root system before I transplant them. Because whenever you transplant anything, any sort of plant, vegetable, fruit, it always goes through a period of transplant shock, right? So the larger the root system and the healthier the plant at time of transplant slows that process down a little bit, because you're not, the plant isn't as small and as fragile. So some of the things like the lettuces and stuff like that, I'll let them get to a point where there's a healthy root system in these trays, and then I'm going to transplant them into pots. So right over here beside me, I've got other things to mix into some of that soil to make better soil for when things get into bigger pots. But right now, this ProMix has everything these little seedlings are going to need to start a good, healthy life, right? So let's move this tripod and I'll show you what we're up to. All right, so there's our bin of soil, right? I have not watered this yet. And the reason I haven't wet this down, one, it's sort of semi-moist. You can see it's kind of clumping together a little bit. But the reason I haven't wet this down yet is because if I wet it down, it's not going to pack into these cells very nicely, right? I'll water it down after I put seeds in there, then I won't have that problem. So what you do is you take your cells and you just start loading them up. Let's see if I can, oh yeah, that'll work. All right. So we just fill them all up. Break down any clumps you find, pull out any sticks and junk, because you don't need that in there, right? Like that. Oh, see? More junk. And then once you get them in there, just tap it down a little bit. Make a mess on my floor. There you go. You're pretty much just trying to remove any of the air pockets. And then just scrape the rest off the top. Like that. Prevent any more mess. And that's essentially full tray. See, more junk. That's why it's good to be a little hands-on. And so now I didn't pack this into these cells, but there's no air gaps in there. And what you want to do it this way, because those little seedling roots, they're not as strong as a full-size plant, right? And you want them to be able to spread their roots as easily as they can, so they're going to grow faster. So we're just going to set up 2 of these. Like that. Fill in all the trays for the cells. Give it a couple of shakes. It'll sort of filter down and fill in any of the holes that might be in there. Pull out more junk. Kind of give the top a bit of a scrape off. Like that. You want to see what you're working with too, right? All right. So, 2 trays filled. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make some labels. Yogurt container, garden snips. Just cut it top to bottom. Cut the top ring off. Like that. Trash. That's what you want here. And then you just pick the spacing that you want to make it as wide or as narrow as you want so it's comfortable to write with. So I'm going to go with 5 of each type of seed, right? So I'm going to need 10 labels because it's a 5 by 10 tray. So all we do, take your snips, get out of there. And then you just cut them top to bottom. And then when you get all 10 or however many, do the whole ring, then you just go down to the bottom, turn your snips on the side like that, and then you just work your way around the bottom and they just come right off. So I'm going to cut the rest of these up. We got all of the labels done. There's another tray beside me with more soil, more labels in it. So all we're going to do is we're just going to get a dibbler. I like using a Sharpie marker. It's easy to put in. It gives a hole big enough that, I can get my big fat fingers over there with the seeds and make sure they get all in the holes. So all we're going to do is, and another thing to remember is when you're planting seeds, the depth of the hole you plant them in equates to the size of the seed, right? If you're doing something like, where is it? Oregano. Check this out. You think it's a bag of seeds, right? It's not a bag of seeds. It's a bag in a bag. Look. Look how tiny those are. Tiny, tiny, tiny little things, right? So something like this, you essentially just need a little tiny divot in your soil, and then you're just going to sprinkle this in the divot and then put a little soil on top. But if you're going to do something like cucumber seeds or zucchini or pumpkin seeds, you're definitely going to need a little more than a divot. And if you look on the back of your seed packets, it tells you your planting depth. See, planting depth, 1/16 of an inch or 2 millimeters. 2 millimeters is, like, it's just a fraction. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So all I'm going to do now is I'm just going to dibble a little hole. And the reason why your hole depth corresponds to your seed size is because those little tiny seeds don't have a ton. See, there's a piece of junk in there. You can feel it. So the little tiny seeds don't have as much energy to push up as a big seed does, right? See, this is why you want it relatively flat across the top. So you can just kind of dibble your little holes like that. And I'll just, oh, see, another chunk. See, even though I went through it all, oh, see, and that's a hard piece of wood. See, and that just messed up the whole hole. So just dibble a little hole. So I'll just go through all here and I'll get all the holes dibbled, and then we're throwing some seeds in the ground. So I'm currently planting more seeds than I'm going to be growing, right? Things like kale. I don't need 5 kale plants, right? And I'm also not going to put 1 seed in each hole. But what I am going to do, see, sprinkle a little out onto my hand. I'm going to put a couple of seeds in each hole. And then as they grow, it's just going to be survival of the fittest. The nicest plants will get kept, and the not so nice plants, I'm just going to offer them out to friends. See if anybody else wants to grow any. Because, I mean, if you want to grow this and you have a nice south-facing sunny window, all you need to do is take these transplants and throw them in a pot and grow them in your own house. So we're just going to work our way through the list. Next, we're doing spinach. Same thing, we're just gonna put a couple in each. Can't guarantee the germination, right? So if they don't grow, then I'm behind schedule. If plenty grow, then that's fine because I will just thin them. There, like that. We'll just work our way through the list. I've never grown burpee seeds before, but I hear good things. Actually, right off the bat, I gotta say, burpee, I hate your packaging. Your packaging absolutely sucks. I can't open this without having an open packet of seeds. Look, there's no flap. Every other pack of seeds, right, from almost every other company, you can open it, there's a flap, and then close it back down. There's no way to do this on these pack of seeds. That's a fail, burpee. So I guess I will just cut a corner off. And then I'll have to fold the corner over and tape it back up again. So, mammoth dill. All right, same thing. Put a bunch in my hand. Couple of dill in each hole. I don't mind lots of dill. But again, it'll be survival of the fittest. And these are all going to have to be transplanted anyways. Oh, I see now see the other problem? How do I get the leftover seeds back in the package? What a headache. Not cool, burpee. Oh yeah. Yep, what a waste. I'm just dropping. Well, none of those seeds went back in the package. Good job. Swiss chard. Okay. So you look at the back. Depth of planting. 1/2 inch. Get it unstuck. You guys ever seen Swiss chard seeds before? They're kind of funny looking. They're all, you know, rough and angular. They kind of look like an old rotten fruit. So we will put a couple in each hole. Just like that. I'm sure you guys probably aren't interested in watching me do all of these. So I'm going to skip oregano for now. I'm going to come back to that because I got to do something different for that. So I'll get the rest of this stuff planted and I'll get back to you in a minute. We are at the planting oregano stage. So because it's only 2 millimeters, what I'm going to do, here's the row of oregano. Got myself a little spoon, and all I'm going to do is just strip back off the top a little bit of that soil, right? Just like that. Not making things complicated, just making sure I have a little depression. And then you guys saw the size of those seeds, right? Tiny, tiny little things. So I'm gonna pour some out into my ginormous Hulk hands in this camera lens here. Like that. And the nice thing about this oregano is come summertime, I'm just gonna move it right outside. So I don't know if you guys really have, look at the size of that. I mean, you can see like the rings in the skin on my hands compared to the size. So we are going to, we're gonna try and just sprinkle those little tiny seeds into these little holes. And the tricky part here is because, like I said, oregano is so invasive that I don't really want these little tiny seeds to be growing anywhere else. It wouldn't be so bad in here because everything's in pots. But if this was the springtime and these were transplants going outside, and I had little tiny, let's say, oregano plants that had started in the Swiss chard or whatever, and then I planted it outside, now I'm going to be spreading oregano across my whole garden or planting area, and then that'll be the end of that. I've lost the battle right off the front. So we're just going to cover those up, just like that. Get rid of that chunk. And the oregano's planted. So let me zoom this camera out here. So there's the tray. I've got the other one beside me, and I've already planted the butter crunch lettuce in that too. I'm not going to plant the cucumbers or the 2 types of tomatoes in these grow trays because I'm going to germinate them a different way. I'll show you guys how I do that. And the green onions, I'm not going to start in here either. They don't transplant overly well because they don't have a very extensive root system. So it doesn't hold the soil block together when you're trying to transplant these. So I'm just going to get a pot, fill it with soil, and I'm just going to direct seed these in clumps. And they're bunching onions, okay? See the label there? They're bunching onions. When you plant bunching onions, you want to plant like 10 seeds together per hole. You ever notice when you go to the grocery store and you buy these at the grocery store, a clump of them are held together with an elastic band? The reason they're like that is because that's how they're grown. They're grown in clumps, and they're happier growing in little clumps. So when I get my pot, I'm going to make a couple of holes, you know, maybe 4 around the outside or 5 in a dice pattern or whatever. And then I will plant several seeds per hole, and then that way when they grow, they'll grow up in clusters. Okay? So now all we're going to do, just going to take the spoon because I already have it, and we're just going to backfill all of these holes. And I'm not packing it down, and because this soil is light and fluffy, it's just going to fill those holes right back up again, right? I don't have to worry about making a mess or, you know, getting more soil on here and scraping it up and then packing the soil down on top of the seeds or any of that. We're just literally just going to backfill over the top like that. Oregano's done. Chives. Chives are another plant that they're going to grow a nice healthy root system once they get into the pot. And then come summertime, I'm just going to take these chives and they will just go right outside into pots, and I'll just continue growing them outside. So that's one of the nice things about things like chives and oregano is you can just keep the life cycle going on them. And here's my lettuces. The lettuces are all done. I'll just fill those in. And then you're wondering, Green Thumb, you live in a house in the city, and you always talk about not using tap water to water your plants. Don't you worry. I got 2 plans in the works for that. I'll show you that in another video. Always have a plan, generally. All right, so lettuces are done. So that's that. So now I am going to clean up this mess and reset what I'm doing, and I'll post this video up for you guys to see, and then I'm going to show you after this video's up. I got to get some things set up to show you how I'm going to water this stuff, and I'll have that video up probably in less than a couple hours. Okay, so if you guys like what you see and you want to carry on watching this greenhouse grow, this whole room here that we're in is just going to be chock full of plants. And so follow along, hit that notification bell and that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. It's probably down here-ish in the corner. And then leave me a comment and hit that thumbs up. Show me some love. And let's keep this going, all right? Grow good food, everybody. It's important. Anybody can do this. All you need is a light, a good LED light, and the space to do it, and some seeds. Okay? So keep growing good food. Have a good one. See ya.